What's up, y'all? Welcome to Tabletop Bros. One of the coolest kits Games Workshop makes is the new Mega Gargant. It is massive and has an equally large price tag. But one thing that's awesome about it and sets it apart from other kits is it gives you a ridiculous amount of options. Well, technically it's only 3, but you have the option to build either of these 3 Mega Gargants. So you have the War Stompa, which is the one that I built, the Kraken-Eater, and then also the Gatebreaker. And you can see by the color-coded pieces, gray is used in all the builds, green for the War Stompa, pink or blue for the other 2 options, but the one you don't build leave you with a ton of amazing bits. So in this case here is the War Stompa fully built up, and honestly this model is amazing. It is massive, it's cool. I hit it with the airbrush and I'm well on my way to painting him, at least the flesh anyway. So now I've got a bunch of bits left to throw in this box. Well, not this box. This box is for something else. My first ever diorama. So here are the bits, and then I've got a bunch of other bits as well, some like Citadel scenery pieces and everything. One of my favorite creators in the space is Trent from Miscast, and he makes some awesome dioramas. So rather than throwing these in my bits box, I'm going to use them to make my first ever diorama, and you guys get to come along for the ride. So the key to a diorama is for it to tell a story. So we've got a head and arms for our Gargant, but no body. So I'm going to hide the body behind a house. And what better story to tell than a Gargant terrorizing some stick figures? Well, I'll use like actual models, but in the drawing they're just stick figures. So we've got a giant, we've got a house blocking the majority of his body, and then we've got a couple of models being terrorized by him, a little bit of a town kind of scape right here, and then I want to tie in something about like time and maybe like a clock, so this is kind of functional, and some other little details as well. But the most important thing is that we've got a way that we're going to use these awesome bits to tell a story inside this little box. So starting here with like the kind of facade of the building, a little chimney and everything, and then we're going to use those bits that we have, kind of assemble them into the upper body of our Gargant. And then I'm just taking some actual like kind of foam pieces and then putting a bunch of green stuff around it, just kind of getting the general shape to connect the one fist that we have to what's supposed to be an arm, and then all the rest of the bits that we have as well. And I wasn't particularly careful about handling this green stuff, so there's fingerprints all over it, but it doesn't really matter since most of it's going to be concealed. Not only just in like the top corner of the box where you can't really see it, but I'm just going to cover it up with bits. But the most important thing is we have like the general shape and size and everything of this guy, and now we just need him to be like sort of peeking over our house. So we've got it here set up, we've got the basic little story of the diorama, we just need a couple more characters, some good guys. So I love this elf from Cursed City, we're going to definitely use her. And then also the new Cities of Sigmar stuff came out, and I really like some of these models here. So I thought something like a city guard, and in this case we're going to use the mounted champion, because obviously the model is cool, and the only thing better than an awesome knight is an awesome knight on a horse. So this is the kind of like general story I want to tell right here. We got to add some basic details, so I'm starting off by making like a little bit of a street here, and I'm putting it on this piece of plastic card so that I can glue it all on here and then just kind of slide it into place. And we're going to try to keep this in functionally like a few separate pieces so it's easier to paint. So I need it to look like it's an actual like city or town, not just a random house in the woods. So we're putting in some street signs. And overall, this thing is really starting to take shape. So the next thing to do is actually make the house seem like it's 3-dimensional, because I'm just using like the actual facade. So I'm just using a little bit of foam, creating some shingles and a little bit of siding and everything, so it has a little bit more of like a 3-dimensional feel. And now we have our street, we have our little house, we've got our little sign, we've got our giant and our 2 characters, and we're really starting to tell a story right here. Now obviously we need to make sure that the box still closes so that we can close it when we want and then open it up and everything is good to go. So now that we've got everything kind of laid out and we have a little bit of a story to tell, I want to go in here and just kind of add in some details to the little bits of putty that we sculpted, you know, to cover up the fingerprints. So I'm taking some of the other bits from the giant kit and just sort of like shaping them around his forearm. And in this case, I'm creating a sort of like bracer piece out of some of the extra bits from the kit that I have left over. So once I kind of just wrap them around by just bending them into place, you can use heat if you need to, I get the overall shape and add in just a little bit of extra detail. I found that when you're doing actual conversions, whether you're doing putty work or just like gluing on extra bits, the more like little pieces you put and the more layers you put, the more it kind of catches your eye and takes away from the lack of actual detail that's there. So as I continue to kind of like piece on these little bits, one here, one there, making sure that nothing interferes with how the actual body sits against the back wall, and also the ability to close the box. So I just continue to add on little bits of details here, one after another, until this thing is really looking awesome. And like I said, one really cool thing about this kit is there are just so many bits here, and there's so many cool like kind of thematic bits. So this guy obviously is the Kraken-Eater, which means he has a sort of like sea or like nautical theme to him. And one after another, I'm sort of just gluing everything into place until I'm happy with the results. And the best thing to do is just kind of test fit stuff, see how it looks, see how it feels. And once it starts to look good and feel good, go ahead and secure it into place. So I'm cutting off extra little bits here and there until I'm just happy with how everything looks or run out of space. And in this case, it's an equal amount of both. And the beauty of this technique is it doesn't take any skill at all to do what I did with the little bits of foam and green stuff. And because I'm just sort of like piecing and parting out little bits and putting them in place, it doesn't take any skill for that either. So you don't have to actually be good at sculpting or anything like that to achieve this effect. And now we can see all of the added detail has really added some extra like texture and things to catch your eye. So now again, just making sure that each of the pieces doesn't interfere with the others. I glue the sign into place, double check by sliding it back in here, and we can see this thing is really taking shape. So I'm very happy with how this is coming out so far. The next thing to do is add a little bit to the story. So here I'm just clipping the tip off of an arrow and using my Citadel drill to go ahead and drill out this giant's eye, because part of my story is that he got shot by the elf and that's why he's so mad. So the elf shot the giant in the eye and he's now chasing him down. Our cavalry model has come to help save the day, and the elf is lining up for another shot. So I basically want her to be getting ready to shoot him in the other eye if she's given the opportunity. So I'm clipping her off the little piece of base that she's mounted to, and I'm gonna glue her to the building so she's kind of like jumping off the side of the building, lining up the shot and trying to shoot him in the other eye so he's completely blinded so they can finish him off. And you can see that as he kind of crests over top the house, he's coming down with his club, smashing into our knight. So just double checking that everything still opens and closes as it should be. Now have 3 main parts for this diorama, and we can see that it went from an idea and a quick little sketch to like an awesome story being told inside of a box. So obviously in this video, we're not gonna have time to paint it up and get it finished. We'll have to save that for next time. But if you wanna see how the story plays out, you wanna see this thing painted up and finished, make sure to like and subscribe to TableTop Bros. Maybe this will inspire you to create your own diorama as Trent from Miscast inspired mine. Make sure to go over to his channel and show him some love as well. But in the meantime, that's it from TableTop Bros. Later.